All right, let's get into this. I mean, it really feels like we're living in a moment where the rules, they're not just bending anymore.
They're snapping.
Yeah, they feel like they're snapping in half. And I'm not just talking about, the usual political bickering or the spats you see online.
No, it's something deeper. It's this
Mhm.
shift from, say, I want to win the argument to I want to destroy my opponent.
And we actually have numbers on that feeling, which is kind of scary.
We do. There was a report from the Polarization Research Lab back in 2025, and it found that nearly 30% of Americans support at least one anti-democratic action.
30%, so almost 1 in 3 people.
Exactly. And the really wild part, that's across the board. It's not a left-wing thing or a right-wing thing. It's a human thing, apparently.
Which leads us right to the mission for today's deep dive. We're
Yeah.
trying to figure out, well, when someone throws a brick or bans a speaker or gerrymanders a district,
Yeah.
are they doing it because they truly deeply love their cause, for justice or family values?
Or is the cause just an excuse for something? A little darker.
That's the question. Is the ideology the driver, or is it just the vehicle?
To get at that, we're looking at this really fascinating and, frankly, kind of disturbing study. It came out in early 2026 in Frontiers in Social Psychology
And it's called Censorship for Thee, but Not for Me.
by Daniel Snook and Nina Skubala.
And we should say up front, this research looks at both Democrats and Republicans in the U.S.
Absolutely. It's not a hit piece on anyone. It's trying to get at the psychology underneath the political labels.
Right. It's about the mindset of political aggression,
And at the heart of it is this concept they call the dark ego vehicle principle.
which I have to say sounds like a heavy metal album.
It does have a ring to it. But the idea is that for some people, activism isn't about the destination, a better world.
It's about the ride.
It's about the ride. Using the movement, whatever it is, just to feed their own ego.
Okay, but before we get into the psychology of that joyride, we need to set the scene, because this study wasn't written in a vacuum.
Not at all. Yeah. They were looking back at the events of 2025, and it was a volatile backdrop.
Yeah, reading that section of the paper was heavy. They mentioned the assassination of the conservative activist Charlie Kirk in a left-wing attack.
A huge event. And on the other side, they talk about a horrific right-wing attack in Minnesota.
That was the one that killed State Representative Melissa Hortman and her husband, Mark.
Yes. And the source includes this detail that it gets you. Their dog, Gilbert, was killed in the attack, too.
That detail about the dog, it just makes it so real. It's not abstract political violence anymore.
It's a home invasion. It's a family being destroyed. And there was more. The paper lists the arson of the New Mexico Republican headquarters.
And a sniper attack on an ICE facility in Dallas.
So you have this environment, buildings are burning, politicians are being killed.
So what makes a person go from, I disagree with your tax policy, to taking a sniper rifle to a federal building?
Well, historically, extremists see the democratic process voting, debating is just too slow.
It's inefficient if you want total change right now.
Exactly. So they turn to what the study calls anti-democratic actions.
Okay, let's define our terms. What does this study mean by that?
It's a spectrum. On one end, you have things like censorship, shutting down the other side's right to speak, or gerrymandering, rigging the maps.
The sneaky stuff,
Yep.
bureaucratic warfare.
Right. But on the other end, they measured violent extremism.
And that's endorsing physical harm, assassination, actual violence.
Yes. And the study wanted to see what kind of person supports all that.
Which brings us back to that heavy metal theory, the dark ego vehicle principle. Can you help me visualize this analogy?
Okay, so imagine a car. The car is the ideology.
It could be the social justice car.
Or the family values car, exactly. Now, most people, the vast majority of us, get in that car to drive to a destination.
Right. I'm driving to a better world.
You're driving in good faith. But the dark ego vehicle principle says there's another kind of driver.
And they don't care about the destination.
Not at all. They get in the car because they like the feel of the engine. They like revving it to get attention.
They get in because they want to run people over.
That's the dark part. The cause is just camouflage.
It's a vehicle. It's a socially acceptable way to satisfy these ego needs.
Think about it. If you just run around hitting people, you're a criminal. But if you do it while screaming, you're fighting for justice.
Suddenly you're a hero, a crusader.
Precisely. It's a costume that lets them act out their worst impulses.
So who are these drivers? The study measured something called the dark tetrad. I've heard of the dark triad.
Right. They added a fourth one. So we have the classic three: narcissism, Machiavellianism, and psychopathy.
Let's break those down. First, Narcissism.
That's grandiosity. The study measured it with statements like, group activities are dull without me.
The main character syndrome. I'm here to save the movement. Now take my picture.
Exactly. Second is Machiavellianism.
To manipulate.
The motto is whatever it takes. They see people as pawns in a game of power.
And then psychopathy.
That's impulsivity, low empathy. The kind of person who thinks, people who mess with me always regret it. It's a coldness.
And the new one, the fourth.
Sadism. The active enjoyment of other people's suffering.
Wow.
The statement they used to measure it was literally, some people deserve to suffer.
Yikes. So the researchers recruited Democrats and Republicans and tested them for all these traits.
They did 2 studies, one with 280 Democrats, the other with 248 Republicans.
Yeah.
And they were careful. They screened out people who were trying to look too good, too angelic. They wanted the raw data.
Okay, so what did they find? Because I think we all have a bias here, right? We all think, well, it's the other side that's driven by psychopaths.
And here's where it gets really uncomfortable for anyone hoping to score points. The main finding was a mirror image. It held true for both parties.
So it didn't matter if you were on the left or the right.
Not for this dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
High scores in those dark tetrad traits strongly predicted support for anti-democratic actions and violence.
Okay, that makes a certain kind of sense. Bad people want to do bad things. But here's the part that really blew my mind. What about the true believers?
Ah, yes. This is the aha moment of the whole thing.
The people who really genuinely care about the cause.
So they measured social justice commitment for Democrats and family values commitment for Republicans. You know, the positive side of the ideologies.
And did loving the cause predict violence?
No.
Not at all.
Not at all. For Democrats, being highly committed to social justice did not predict support for violence. For Republicans, being committed to family values, actually, it's slightly reduced support for violence.
Wait, hang on. Let's just pause on that.
Yeah.
Because that completely flips the usual narrative, right? We think, oh, that person is just too radical. They care too much.
Exactly. We assume extremism is an overdose of ideology. Turn the volume on social justice up to 11, and you get a bomb thrower.
But this data says the opposite.
It suggests the people calling for heads to roll aren't the ones who care the most about the values. They're the ones using the movement as a cover.
The true believers aren't the violent ones. The violent ones are the imposters.
In a way, yeah. Their motivation is just completely different. They aren't fighting for the cause. They're fighting with the cause as a weapon.
That is such a critical distinction. It makes you look at every protest differently. The person shouting the loudest might care the least about the outcome.
It should make us really skeptical of performative aggression. And if we dig a bit deeper, there's another surprise in the data.
About which dark trait is the real problem.
Right. Most of us, we hear toxic activist. We think narcissist.
Yeah, they want the spotlight. They want to be the hero.
And that was the expectation. But in this context, supporting violence, narcissism didn't really predict much.
Really? Why not?
Well, think about what a narcissist wants. They want positive attention, adoration.
The applause. The statue.
And violence, or getting caught rigging an election, that brings negative attention, shame, prison, that damages their precious self-image.
So if it wasn't the narcissists who was doing the heavy lifting.
It was the sadists and the Machiavellians.
Right. Okay, so it's not look at me. It's I want to hurt you and I want to control you.
Precisely. Sadism was the strongest predictor of violent extremism. And Machiavellianism was the strongest predictor of the sneaky stuff, the gerrymandering and censorship.
And the paper talks about this psychological payoff, right? Political schadenfreude.
Yeah, schadenfreude, taking joy in the misfortune of others. A sadist gets a sweet feeling when their political enemy suffers.
And the ideology gives them the perfect excuse.
It gives them permission. The paper quotes the comedian John Cleese, of all people.
I saw that. It's an amazing quote.
He says, the great thing about having enemies is that you can pretend that all the badness in the whole world is in your enemies.
And all the goodness is in you.
And if you enjoy abusing people, then you can pretend you're only doing it because these enemies of yours are such very bad persons.
That is chillingly accurate. It's what the researchers call moral neutralization. I'm not a sadist. I'm just hurting an enemy of justice.
It lets you be cruel and feel righteous about it.
Okay, so we have this dynamic happening on both sides. But the study did find one key difference between the parties, right? Something about needs fulfillment.
Yes, this brings in self-determination theory. It's basically asking, are your basic human needs being met?
And those three needs are autonomy, competence, and relatedness.
That's right. Do you feel free? Do you feel capable? And do you feel connected?
So
Freedom, skills, and friends.
Pretty much. And in the Republican sample, they found a fascinating interaction. When Republicans felt their needs were being met when they were happy, capable, connected.
The dark traits didn't matter as much.
They were buffered significantly.
Yeah.
Even if someone scored high on psychopathy, if their life was going well, they were much less likely to endorse violence.
But if their needs were frustrated.
That's the danger zone. When a Republican with dark traits also felt stuck, incompetent, or lonely, the link to violent extremism became much, much stronger, like pouring gasoline on a fire.
So for that group, political aggression might be a way to feel powerful when they feel powerless in their own life. It suggests that, yeah, I can't control my job, but I can control you by silencing you.
Did they see that same effect with the Democrats?
Surprisingly, no. That interaction wasn't present in the Democratic sample.
Any idea why?
The researchers don't say for sure, but it suggests different internal dynamics. Maybe the triggers are just different. It shows that while the outcome violence can be the same, the pathway to get there might not be.
There was one other pathway they mentioned for Republicans involving social dominance.
Right. Social dominance orientation, or SDO. It's the belief that society should be a hierarchy. Some groups on top, others on the bottom.
The natural order of things.
Exactly. And they found that SBO acted as a mediator.
What does that mean in this context?
It means it's the bridge. It explains how the dark personality gets to the violence. So a person with dark traits gravitates toward the idea of hierarchy. They like the idea of winners and losers.
And that belief then justifies crushing the opposition.
Precisely. The dark personality leads to the belief in hierarchy, which then leads to the brick through the window. It converts a personality flaw into a political philosophy.
That's really disturbing, the idea that people are just shopping for a philosophy that lets them be their worst selves.
It is. And it's a huge warning. We often analyze politics by looking at policies or economics. This suggests we also need to look at the personality types a movement attracts.
Because if a movement becomes a magnet for the dark tetrad,
Then the movement stops being about the cause. It becomes a playground for sadists and manipulators. And that's when you get the violence we saw in 2025.
So what's the big takeaway for us, for the person listening to this who is just trying to make sense of everything?
I think the biggest thing is to shift our focus from ideology to psychology. We tend to think the problem is that the left goes too far or the right goes too far.
But this data says the problem isn't the ideology itself.
Right. The problem isn't the person who deeply loves social justice. The problem is a person who is using social justice as a vehicle for their own ego.
And that explains why you can't debate these people.
It does. I mean, you can't use logic to talk someone out of a position they didn't use logic to get into in the first place.
If they're arguing because it satisfies a sadistic need, facts aren't going to change that.
They aren't arguing in good faith. They're just satisfying a hunger.
That is a tough pill to swallow. It means we have to stop assuming everyone is playing the same game.
We do. And we need to be vigilant inside our own camps. When you see someone on your team acting cruelly or dehumanizing the enemy,
You have to wonder if they're a true believer.
or if they're just a dark personality taking everyone for a ride.
It's about vetting the driver, not just admiring the car.
That's the perfect way to put it. Look the behavior, not just the slogan.
This has been, wow, eye-opening. And honestly, a little frightening. It strips away the politics and just looks at the raw human psychology underneath.
But if you can spot the dark ego at work, you're less likely to be manipulated by it.
Absolutely. So here's the thought I want to leave you with today. The next time you see a political firebrand on TV, or a viral post calling for censorship, or someone hinting that maybe violence is the answer, stop and ask yourself, are they really fighting for a better world?
Or are they just taking their ego out for a joyride?
And looking for someone to run over?
And if they are, don't get in the car with them.
Thanks for diving deep with us. Stay curious, stay safe, and we'll see you next time.